Hey everybody, Dana Stovern here with the Magic of Somatic Money, and we are here to talk today about a money story, and very specifically a money story that has to do with debt dissolution or paying off your debt. And it's also in the theme of the magical power of paying off your debt. And in some of my other videos I talk about, yes, that is irrational, it is counterintuitive, but in the mind, body, and spirit of debt dissolution or paying off your debt, it makes total sense. And so the story I have here today is a story about the more magical part of paying off your debt. It is a story that I recently shared with one of my clients to help lift her spirits in a debt despairing kind of situation, and many of us have been there. We get to these points where we realize, oh my God, I have debt that I need to pay off. And even though it isn't necessarily fun, there can be magical moments in it, and that's what this story is about. So I'm going to take you back 20 years ago. This is like roughly 23 years ago. It was more at the front end of my money journey. This is before I really knew anything about anything, many years before I got involved with my somatic money work with clients. And this thing that happened with me in debt, I've never forgotten about, and I've carried it with me as part of my magical work, but I've never shared this story. So here's the story. 23 years ago, I was working at an independent insurance agency in Fort Collins. I had about $20,000 in credit card debt and also college loan debt. And I wasn't really actively working on shifting those or getting those off my plate. And I turned 30 and I realized, oh my goodness, if I don't do something about this, debt, I'm never going to feel like I can move forward in my life. So I made a commitment. I made a concerted effort and commitment that I'm going to get this debt paid off. And so I did what everybody does. Like I tallied up all the different debts that I had, and I figured out what their balance was and the payment and the interest rate, and I got all the logistics set up on getting that debt to pay it off, and I had a plan as far as the time period that I was going to pay it off in, and I got started, and I was about 4 months in on paying off this debt. I was driving to work one morning. It was like 7:30 in the morning. I was in, rush hour traffic in North Fort Collins, and I was in the right-hand lane, and there was a turning or passing lane on the right, and a delivery driver came up on my right side, and he was moving pretty fast, and as he moved through and turned, he clipped and sheared off my side view mirror. And for a moment I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? Because I was trying to get to work, I needed to get to work, and in the back of my mind I saw this happen, and I was like, damn it, I'm trying to pay off my debt. I don't need stuff like this happening. And in that split second, I was like, I'm going to chase him down. So I pulled out of my lane, came around the corner, and I started chasing him down. Well, unbeknownst to me, there was a lady cop in a cop car sitting not too far behind me who saw the whole thing. And she pulled out, flipped on her lights, followed me, went around me. For a moment I thought, oh my God, I'm in trouble now. She went around me and she flagged down the delivery driver, got him pulled over, and we all got out of our vehicles, and she had him give me the insurance information, and she said, now make sure you report this. I'm like, what are the chances of that? And in the middle of all of this chaos going on, I began to get a feeling of, maybe this isn't a bad thing going on. Maybe this is like a bad thing disguised, this is a good thing disguised as a bad thing. Well, what ended up happening is I ended up taking the information, going home. I got the claim. I made sure the claim was filed, and I got to talking with my husband, my husband at the time, my then husband at the time, and he began to tell me, he's like, Dana, we can just order that part and I can do the fix-it job on it because he's pretty handy. And so that's what we did. I got the insurance claim check, and I got the part, we got the part, and he did the job on it. And basically what ended up happening is I ended up pocketing, from what I can remember, was I ended up pocketing about $1,200. And that was a pretty cool deal. So I took my husband out to dinner to thank him, and then I pocketed that money, and I took the majority of the rest of that money and put it right towards the debt. So right around $1,000, right towards the debt, 4 months in. That was a really big deal. I mean, 20 years ago, a $20,000 debt, and have $1,000 just show up out of the blue to boom, put on a debt. That was a pretty big deal. Well, that wasn't the only thing that happened in paying off that debt. I had about 4 or 5 different situations through the course of paying off that debt where extra money showed up just out of nowhere. And I've been trying to remember what some of them were. One of them was my grandparents, who were still alive at the time. They had loaned money to my cousin. This was back in Indiana. They had loaned money to my cousin, and he never paid it back. And so they gifted it to him. And to make everything even schmeven with all of the cousins, all the cousins got the same amount of money that this one cousin got. And so one day I came home and opened up the mail, and there was a card from them, and in the card there was a check for $1,500 out of the blue. So took the money, did something nice for myself to make myself feel good, and the rest of it, put it right on the debt. That wasn't it. Towards the end of the year, the company that I worked for decided to do bonuses for everybody, and that year I walked away with a $3,000 bonus. So you guessed right, I did something nice for myself, and I turned around and I put that all towards the debt. And of course, during this time, as one debt, you focus on a debt and the one debt gets paid off, you do the snowball effect, and so then you begin to put extra money into the next debt that you want to pay off. So I was doing that, and I was seeing the fruits of my labors, and I was beginning to see a debt fall away here and a debt fall away there, and get it whittled down. One of the other things that I do remember is, I know how this sounds crazy, I used to have a corn roaster, and I used to roast corn at the festivals around Fort Collins, Colorado. And because I was getting more committed into my career, it was time to let go of the corn roaster. So instead of just letting the corn roaster sit there, I decided to sell it. And my ex-husband, he was a good wheeler and dealer, and so we got that corn roaster sold for about $1,800. And again, turned around, did something nice for us, paid off another chunk of debt. So this happened, from what I can remember, 4 or 5 times. It was as if the moment I focused on the debt and decided I am getting this paid off, the universe just lined up behind me and said, hey, do you want some help? And what I've really come to understand, and this is one of the things that I work with myself with money, that I want to share it with all of you, is that when we get focused on a certain thing with money, especially with debt, when we bring our energy to it, when we bring our essence to it, when we bring our magic to it, there's this wild card in a very magical way that can happen with money that can give us a boost. And so what I told this client that I was working with, and what I will tell you, is don't just do your masculine money logical IQ, I've got to do the logistics of money. Don't stop there. Keep doing, of course, do your feminine EQ money work, and I talk about that in the other video, but then also bring your magic to the money, bring your essence, bring your energy, bring your presence, bring your sense of self, and call in that spirit team, call in your light team, call in those spirit guides and say, hey guys, this is what I'm focused on. Help me out here, because we don't need to be alone with our money. And we especially don't need to be alone with our debt. That's one of the things that happens. We get into debt and we feel like we are isolated and that we can't get help or we don't deserve help. And that is not true. So if you're dealing with debt, just know that, yeah, take care of the logistics, get your debt payment plan, begin to set up, begin to do your EQ work on it. I talk about that in the other video. And then make sure you leave the door open for some magic. That's why I'm wearing this shirt. We're all lucky. All right, so that's what I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this, and make sure to stay tuned to all the other great videos I've got coming out.